Hello and welcome to Sobriety Society. My name is Sean Snowday. I am the founder of Automation Rehab, the author of Fill Your Wellness Center, and of course, I am the interviewer for Sobriety Society, the podcast. And I want to welcome you and I want to thank you for showing up and for just setting aside the time to come on the podcast. I know how important your time is to you, and my time is important to me as well. So I'm going to go over a few of the guidelines, what we want to go over the podcast and how we want it to go and some of the things that are going to happen. So there's five main things that we want is we want focus. We want you to be prepared before you come on. So we have some tools for you to be prepared. We want you to be able to connect. And what I mean by that is connect with your computer, not a tablet, not a phone. We're not going to be driving in our car to our next appointment on the podcast. If you did schedule the podcast while will be traveling or maybe at the airport, we're going to want to reschedule because it's not really going to work. And also, we want to have some maintenance on this. And what I mean by maintenance is we want to make sure that the technology works. Now, I literally had a guy, he had set everything up, everything was done perfectly. And one of his employees, he was on a ranch, turned off the electricity to his house during the podcast. So the whole podcast went down. I had to call him on the phone. We had to go through all this stuff. I edited it and we were able to have a successful podcast, get the audio out there and get that for him to use as a marketing tool. And we also want to have a certain awareness. There's a lot of common sense. If you're thinking, maybe I shouldn't do this, then you probably shouldn't. And we'll go over that. So the first thing we want is to remove all distractions. So what I mean by that is don't have your mobile phone turned on, receiving any texts. Okay, you want to have all that off. Just turn your cell phone off. You can go an hour without your cell phone. Tell all of your employees that you won't be available for an hour so they don't come knocking on your office door. Or maybe you work out of the home, so you're going to want to let your spouse or your children know that you won't be available for an hour. If you have a pet, please don't have your pet walking around or sitting on your lap. I know some people have their comfort dogs, and that's okay, but on the podcast, it's not really going to work because we don't really know what's going to happen. And again, this is going to be an audio form for you to use in your marketing. So again, I want to thank you. It's an honor and a privilege to have you on this podcast. So I just want you to have the clarity. And I also want you to know that I'll be asking you some questions, but I might need to interrupt you once in a while just so we get back on track. So just be ready for that, because I've been told I'm a great interviewer and sometimes I just got to jump in and like go, okay, that's great, but let's get back on track, okay? The second thing is we're going to want you to click on it'll say test here in either the email. There's also a PDF, and just test out your computer. Make sure everything connects well before you get on the podcast. If you don't have a speaker or a microphone like I have right here, you might want to dial in. I would suggest not using your speaker phone, right, or a Bluetooth headset. We're really not going to want to have those because a Bluetooth headset doesn't always connect nicely. Remember, anything can happen. So I would suggest a hardwired headset going into your phone and or have a microphone like this, or you could use the microphone even in your webcam. But those aren't going to sound as great as if you dial in on your phone, and all the dial in instructions will be in the emails that you'll receive. You'll be receiving reminders as well. Okay, so you're going to want to test that out and make sure that everything is connecting appropriately. And another thing is, I've had people call in again while they're driving their car. What happens is if you connect with your smartphone, I know that there's internet, but we don't know where the dead spots are, or if there's going to be a dead spot where there usually isn't one. So you're going to want to be in your office, focused all the sharp objects off your desk, put on your seatbelt, pull up your bootstraps, get ready to podcast. Because what's going to happen is at the end of this, I'm going to edit it, get it back to you, and you're going to be talking to someone and they're going to be interested in your product or your services, and they're not going to have the whole time to listen to what you have to say. And if they don't, what you could do is say, hey, I'd like to send you this podcast, this interview that I was on, and it's going to be you being interviewed by a best-selling author, and you will be talking about your services. And that person, that prospect that you're trying to help them in whatever way they need helped, they can listen to you in their car. They can Bluetooth from their phone to the radio, or maybe they have that technology in their car and they can listen to your podcast, that what we're about to do. See, that was my cell phone and it just dinged. So we don't want distractions like that. Okay? Also, here's a big thing. Have your computer plugged into the wall. I know that a lot of people are like, well, I'll just go on the podcast. If you have to have your computer away from the outlet, make sure your battery is charged. So charge your battery overnight and charge it in the morning before you get on the podcast. We want to make sure that we have plenty of battery. I would suggest having it plugged in the wall. I have seen the best speakers in the world on the biggest stages in the world watch their laptops die during a presentation. They have it up on the wall in front of 500 people, 1,000 people, 20,000 people, and their laptop dies because they were traveling that night. They just flew in. They were using their laptop at the airport or maybe in the morning. They were so tired when they got home, they forgot to plug it in. Their laptop goes down, and then they're like, oh, well, I'm just going to wing it from the stage. We don't get to do that. When your laptop battery dies, the podcast dies, okay? Now, if you're dialed in with your phone, we can still use your phone, but make sure your phone is charged, okay? Because if your phone is not charged and your phone dies, but your computer's still working, then we have issues there. So we just want to make sure that everything is set up appropriately. And again, just use common sense. If you have a question thinking, I wonder if I should do this, right? If you're wondering, then you probably should not do it, okay? So, for instance, you might want to play your favorite song in the background or just have some spiritual floaty bells in the background. That's great, but it's distracting. And we really want people to hear what you have to say. People want to hear what you have to say, and it's selfish of you not to get your message out there, not to make a difference, not to get in front of more people, and not to save lives. Listen, people are dying and they need your help. And we're here to help you. And Sobriety Society is about helping others save lives, okay? So I look forward to seeing you on the podcast. I want to honor you. And again, it is a privilege for me to have you on this interview. Again, if you know of anybody, I'm always looking for speakers. Have them go to sobrietysociety.org, or they can call me at 619-357-4357, or just send an email and CC me and introduce us, okay? So again, my name is Sean Snowday. I'm the founder of Sobriety Society. It's an honor and a privilege to have you on the podcast. I look forward to interviewing you, and you have a great day. We'll talk to you soon.